Welcome to another episode of The Dark Room. This is a podcast that is just meant to give people, right now men, the opportunity to be real about the wins and losses in life. Today, I'm here with one of my really good friends, James Lee. He and I worked together for what, 5, 6 years?
Yeah, shared a room
on the high school level.
daily.
Talk a little bit about what you remember about how we met, and then I'll tell you what I remember.
I remember first you came in the building, I think as a sub,
Yep.
and then you came in as sped, and you were just really kind of energetic, brought a lot of fresh air to what I thought was a stale kind of almost older group of women. And the men that were in sped at the time, I didn't feel like I could talk to them because they had other things they were preoccupied with.
Okay. Man, that's cool. I think we kind of have a similar perspective. When I came in, like you said, I was a substitute. My experience was coaching football. I had no formal training on teaching. So I started with provisional license. So like you said, I didn't really know what to expect. You know that there's a certain level of professionalism, which I think we still hold ourselves to that high standard.
Correct.
But when I was put in a room as you, it was like, all right, this guy's like me.
Yeah.
He listens to rap music like I do. He has a sense of humor like I do. He likes sports like I do. So it's kind of cool. You know what I mean? I expected to feel like I had to fit a certain mold of maturity, which I do think that we both fit the mold of maturity, but you could also be yourself, man. So,
but I think also I was older.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I'm 39.
Yep. 33. Yep.
So in my stage in life, I'd also, I think, grown more comfortable in my own skin, if that makes sense. I could be myself to an extent, you know what I mean? But not feel like I was jeopardizing other things.
Absolutely. Yeah, still maintain that professionalism.
Correct. Kind of knew when to cut it off and when to cut it on.
I think it takes a real level of maturity and confidence to be able to get to that point. You know what I mean? To be able to just be who you are. Some people are going to like it. Some people are not going to like it. That's your choice.
And I think that's something I've also kind of came with being in the building for however many years.
You were several years ahead of me.
So
speaking of several years ahead of me, I remember it was my first year, it was not your first year. We had this thing where the superintendent and assistant superintendent brought donuts and orange juice in the library.
Oh, yeah.
And, you remember the story?
He's like, oh, nice to meet you. What's your name? First year? I was like, nah, it's like year 4, thanks. And just got my donuts and juice.
He said, nice to meet you. How's your first year going?
Yeah.
He said, it was good 4 years ago.
Like, who says that to the assistant superintendent?
Somebody who's confident in who they are.
Yeah, like, dude, what do you expect? I've been here for 4 years. That's a pretty good amount of time.
Exactly. Yeah, that was funny, man. So, anyway, today we're going to talk about something that's pretty heavy.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the concept of grief, which, to be honest, is a topic that a lot of people don't talk about, especially men.
I agree.
I think we both grew up in an era, and especially the generation before us grew up in an era where you don't talk about your feelings, you don't admit when you're struggling, you rub some dirt on it, you keep it moving.
You pull your bootstraps
Exactly. The old school, pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Yeah.
And I do think there's a time and place where you have to operate like that.
I do
right?
Too.
Like we have to get up and keep going to work every day even though it's hard.
Yep.
We have to pay our bills.
Yep.
But at the same time, we are human beings who experience emotions, and grief is a cycle of emotions. It's not just one emotion. You don't just grief.
And
right?
you can feel several of those emotions in a day, in a minute. And
exactly. Yep.
It's crazy.
Exactly. And I think one thing that I've learned, and you maybe can speak on this too, but is that if you don't actually take time to let grief happen, it'll come out in other ways.
Yes. I think that's something that I've taken some pride in myself in, that when this happened, this grief period began, that I went to find help to help myself first, because I knew if I couldn't be good for myself, how am I expected to be a good father? And I don't want to be the dad. I could be mad at the world at my situation. I could wake up every day angry and mad, and at the end of the day, who's that taken out of? It's going to be all my kids and the people around me. And I was laying in bed putting Xander down, and I thought, like, it's not fair to take the anger out on the closest ones around you. Because 9 times out of 10, they didn't do anything to deserve it.
That's a great point.
But you feel comfortable enough to let that anger out. But how does that affect that other person in turn?
Yeah, man, that's deep. And I think I just want to take a second to, as your friend, give you some praise. You know what I mean?
Man.
Like for you to take the steps to seek out therapy, when you were dealing with what I would imagine, I can't say it's the hardest thing you've ever dealt with, because you've dealt with a lot of hard things.
It's the hardest thing I've done in my life. I've dealt with some pretty hard things just in the time that we've known each other in this 10 years. I've gone through, I think you said the other day, I lived multiple lifetimes already with Danny and what we've gone through in this 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, man. And I know I've said this to you before, but you are probably the best example of a father I've ever seen. And I thought that really it started 6 years ago, or 5 years ago. Xander's about 5.5 now. The day he was born.
Yeah, there's something just kind of switched. I don't know. I saw him in this. Well, first he was so fragile when he was born, and then I saw him in that box looking at me, and it was just like, you got to do something. Like, absolutely. This is your father now. He's going to need you. It's time to do something. That's right. And I made a choice, I guess, to. I don't think I was living a crazy or bad life, but I definitely made a choice to, I think, better myself.
Absolutely. Yep. And I've seen that, man. And I continue to watch you just continue to do that, every day.
Well, thank you.
Every year. And I think it deserves some praise. I want to start by just laying a couple ground rules down. Like I said, man, this is going to be a hard topic for both of us because truly we're going to the deepest level of vulnerability.
Yep.
Neither one of us are talking about something that's happened in the past or years ago. We're talking about something that we're dealing with right now.
Yep.
And while we're both dealing with it right now, it's kind of unique that we're going through this phase at the same time, because I remember when we shared a classroom, we talked about all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah, we talked about.
I remember us being in a struggle at one point where we kept saying, like, next year's our year.
For a lot of years.
Man, and I bet you neither one of us thought that 2025 would bring for you the death of your significant other, and for me, the death of my marriage. Neither one of us in 2015, 2016, 2017 was thinking that would be the future.
Nope.
So
not even early 2025 was I thinking.
Exactly. Yeah, not even last spring. So, as much as I don't wish it on anybody, I couldn't think of a better person to be processing this with. You know what I mean? Just because I know that you understand, and it's nice to know that it's safe just to be real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So a couple ground rules as we talk about this process of grief. It's okay if we need to pause, and that pause can be, hey, I need a minute. Or that pause can be, I'm done.
Okay.
I've hit my limit. Silence is all right. If both of us or either of us need a moment just to feel it, that's all right. Our answers don't have to be neat or PG. I know for me especially, as I'm talking about the concept of divorce, there are going to be some, I guess, topics of conversation that aren't really that clean. Talking about some of the relational issues that may have led to that, some of the weight that I carry, and feeling like I could have done a better job at being a better husband and being a better father when I had the opportunity. And then finally, this is a safe space. We're on this journey together. So nothing that you say is going to change the way I feel about you. Nothing. I hope that nothing that I say changes the way that you feel about me. So I just want to make that clear before we get started.
Okay? Not at all, man. I'm not a big judge on others.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And again, that goes back to 10 years ago when we met.
Yep.
So let's start by taking a second to think about the concept of grief. When you hear the word grief, what does that mean to you? And how do you feel like society as a whole misunderstands what grief is?
I think I immediately go to sadness. Because I think when you experience grief, like a profound grief, like I feel like what I experienced, experience the loss of a significant other, the mother of my children, and that's a big thing to handle, I think, at 39. Like at 69, you're probably thinking that this is a possibility. I was not thinking that at 37 and 39. But grief is a process. It's not just sadness. Um, I've had to allow myself to be angry and to say that's okay. I'm not dishonoring this person.
Yeah.
Um, because I've struggled with that in some of my feelings, in that I felt as though I was dishonoring this person or their memory.
Mm.
In actuality, I'm not. It's just like if I was in that relationship with that person now, we're gonna have moments of anger, we have moments of frustration. Um, doesn't change the fact that I love Danny. You know what I mean? Doesn't change the fact how I feel or care about her. It's just that those emotions are there. You're angry, you're sad, you're frustrated, you feel alone, you feel like you can't relate to others at times. You look at around the room and at certain things, and you see something, and you think about it, but you can't explain that to others. What that thought is or what that feeling is. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, man. That makes perfect sense. Do you feel that society in general has a misunderstanding of what grief is?
I think as a whole, yes. I think society understands that older people are going to pass. I think when tragic accidents occur, I think more people are understanding of that, especially at a younger age. I do feel that my place of work and my friends and my family have been really supportive in my journey already. And I think that is also a big support. I think having them to just call or talk to or say, I need a minute, or take your mind off something, like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Things of that nature have really benefited me. I mean, the day that Danny died, my brother immediately left work and drove straight from Richmond here.
Wow.
Like, I didn't know what to do at the moment. It was middle of the day. The only thing I do is I wanted to be around people. So I went to scoreboards because my friend's an owner there, and I knew he was there. He happened to be working the bar that day.
Oh, wow.
And it just crazy. And then a bunch of my friends showed up out of nowhere and were really supportive and surrounded me with a lot of love and support. And I continue to feel that to this day.
Well, good, man. I'm glad to hear that, because I do know, and this is one of the questions we're going to get to. Sometimes when we're in that cycle of grief, it feels so lonely. You know what I mean? It feels so lonely. And I agree with a lot of what you said. I think grief is really um, loss of something or someone. And I think sometimes we think of it as just someone, the loss of a person. And that's usually probably what we grieve the most. But I think sometimes losing a person or a relationship also comes with losing certain items.
I think so. And it has to come with a sense of grief and loss as well.
Exactly.
With that.
Exactly. So, like, when I think of the current phase of grief that I'm in, my wife and I are separated on the journey of divorce. I do miss the relationship. I also miss the family unit, mom and dad being under the same roof, 4 kids being able to look at us both all day, every day, in the morning and the afternoon. But I also miss my house, my bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I miss what I had. So I'm not just grieving that I'm getting divorced and moving forward, she's going to be here and I'm going to be here. I'm grieving 10 years of what
building a life
together. Exactly. I think one misunderstanding that I think I had at one point, and society carries a little bit, is the thought that grief is something that is final. You know what I mean? Someone dies, you grieve, then you move past it.
Correct.
When I think in reality, not only is it a process, but also it's lifelong.
Yeah, I don't think it's something that ends. I think maybe you learn to live with it better and manage your feelings better. But I don't know if it ever ends. I'm 8 months in. December 30th was 8 months.
Wow.
And there are days it feels like it was yesterday. And there are days where it feels like it was 10 years ago.
I bet.
So it's a process, I think, daily. I mean, it's not something even you can say weekly. I don't even know if you can say daily. I found myself grieving over dog treats in the middle of a grocery store.
Wow.
Um,
What do you think it was about those that triggered it? Was it?
it was the fact that we got a dog that has allergic to chicken. And Danny went out her way to find these certain treats that can be found at Walmart, Target, Kroger, pretty much everywhere that don't have any chicken byproduct in it.
Wow.
And we hadn't gave them any in a while, and we were in the food line, and Xander goes, "Let's get the dogs a treat." And so I went down the treat aisle, and they were right there. So just kind of a moment. But
absolutely,
where I am, I kind of am grieving when I can.
Okay.
With having Xander all the time, I don't want to connect a negative feeling towards that loss. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to be crying and upset him. The other day I was crying. He noticed, and he said, "What's wrong, Dad?" And like came over, gave me a hug. Like we talked, and we talked about what was wrong, and you could tell he immediately was thinking, like processing, and I miss mommy too, and you know what I mean. And so we do process those things, but I don't want him to connect that to Dad being sad and crying. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's really mature of you. Because you have to wear multiple hats. But two of the ones you really have to wear are you as a person, independent from anyone or anything else. And you as a person does have to grieve the loss of your significant other, but you also have to wear you as a dad, right? And it's good for Xander to see opportunities when you do grieve and to question like you experienced the other day, but you don't want to overwhelm him with only seeing that.
I can't sit here for 2 hours and cry.
And not allowing him to be able to process that in an age appropriate way because it's projected on him.
Well, then later that evening, we do this thing where he gets upset. I have to blow out the candles. So I just hold fingers and he has to blow them out like candles and they disappear. Later that night, he said, "Dad, can I blow out candles? I want to blow out 5." And he didn't say anything else, but we blew out the candles. And so I don't know if that was him trying to process some things or if it was him trying to just help me kind of calm down or what it was. But I thought it was kind of big of that moment for him to think of that on his own.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest, man, I think that speaks volumes about your intentionality as a father. You know what I mean? Part of what we're talking about right now, that process of being able to grieve, means you have to be able to recognize and respond to your emotions. And I'm 33 years late on that. And if I would not have, if I would have been able to recognize that sooner, I probably could have been a much better husband, much better father. There's a lot of things I would have done differently. So you equipping your son at 5 years old, that's huge, man. Hats off to you. Hats off to you. And it's going to make him a better man than you are.
Yeah, I think as men, like you said earlier, we're kind of emotionally limited in how we can express things. And I think sometimes those are limited to even our own household, how we express some things and how we carry our anxiety and fear and whatever else we're dealing with at that moment. And again, we tend to let that out on our partner because we feel safe. But in doing so, it's not the most healthy way, as opposed to me having a conversation with me and you to voice or vent some of these things are going to be a little different than that conversation with that significant other. Because I think sometimes it's hard for women, just as it is for men, to put their lenses on and to see it from that perspective.
Yeah, I agree. It is a challenge. It's a real challenge.
Because even as a man, even without the pressure, I feel like you could have unlimited amount of money, but you're going to still feel the pressure that you have to provide for your family. This is your job to protect and provide. And that's what you're going to do. And it's going to have stressors and concern no matter what is in the picture. And I think that's just something naturally inbred in us.
I fully agree, man. Well said. Well said. Earlier you kind of talked about how the specific moment that you experienced the news that Danny died.
Yeah.
You were immediately showered in love by some of the people you were closest to.
Yep.
They met you at the bar.
Yeah,
surrounded you. Your brother drove over 2 hours.
And then stayed here for 3 nights.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dropped everything.
Dropped everything.
That's awesome.
He got 2 kids. Worked in a surgery center, so it's not like he was at home doing nothing. Like he was in the military.
He's a person. Yeah, it wasn't exactly convenient, but it showed where his priorities lied, and that was in his loyalty to his family. I know I've felt this way a lot, but have you ever felt lonely even when you were surrounded by people?
Yeah. And I think I felt that more so in the beginning of my journey than I do now. I think it's something that I had to work on some self-confidence things and things of that nature. But even at times, I feel lonely in a group of people. And for different reasons, they may have their significant others. They may be talking about what they're planning to do with their significant others and things of that nature. Or it may be me just in my own thoughts and I'm wandering in my thought in this whatever's going on, and you're just thinking about what either could have been or what you wish would have been or those type of things.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. And it's funny you say that because, of course, when I was writing these questions, I was thinking about my perception, right? And I have felt lonely a lot recently, and I've kind of battled between: is this a legitimate feeling that I'm feeling because it's truth, or am I in my own head? I think when you go through the process of divorce, there's a level of shame that comes with it. You feel like you failed because nobody sets out to get married just to say in 2, 5, 10, 15, 20
I don't
years,
want to do this.
I'm going to cut it off.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, especially as someone who's identified as a Christian, really most of my life, in Christian circles, it's like divorce is not acceptable.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, there is a sense of failure that I'm carrying as I'm grieving, and that sense of failure makes me feel lonely. And I don't know if it's sometimes because I'm not willing to let people in, because I do by nature isolate a lot. It's definitely one of my coping mechanisms. Or if it's just this is truly how I feel. I probably need to explore that a little bit, but that's definitely something I felt. It seems to me like there's really two major feelings that contribute to the loneliness. The first one for me is feeling like, although there might be people around, they don't really understand the weight of what I'm going through.
Very much.
Talk about it, but I'm still the one carrying it.
I feel like that a lot in my situation.
Okay.
Because I don't feel like a lot of people in my circle, even multiplied my circle, have experienced kind of what I've experienced, like the loss of a significant other at such a young age.
Agree.
And so at times I feel very lonely because I feel like I'm talking to people and they're telling me things that are they're heartfelt, they're meaningful, but they don't know what I'm experiencing or what I'm living at this moment. Like, you know what I mean? They're doing their best to try to understand, but you start kind of opening up to some people and you kind of realize, like, damn, like, I'm the only one in here that even knows what this kind of feels like. Like, and so you kind of then even more like kind of sometimes I found myself reeling in what I was talking about.
Really?
Yeah.
For that reason?
For that reason, But you go back to your coping mechanism of isolation. I think that's something I worked on not to do, and has helped me kind of feel more not as lonely. I still feel lonely in the sense that I miss Danny being here. I miss us living together. I miss us raising our children. The sense of the relationship and all that stuff. Absolutely. But I know I'm not lonely in my life. I know I'm not on this journey by myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. I think it's important. And again, that process of grief, there's no definite timeline on it. It's not like you grieve 6 months, you grieve 6 hours, you grieve 6 years. It's really ongoing. 5, 10 years from now, something might trigger it, and we just kind of have to sit in it.
Yep.
But I think one thing that can make or break our ability to really grieve is the community we allow ourselves to have.
I think so
you
too.
know, and that's kind of hard for me. It is, but I do think part of my healing journey and becoming the man that I want to be and working through this grief is letting people in, especially as somebody who is on the outside experienced a lot of success.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Been given some good opportunities professionally, got married young, bought a house young, all the stuff that you would use as successful. To now be at a place where I'm experiencing a pretty significant failure, to be okay to be able to show that to people,
Right.
to say not everything's all sunshine and rainbows for me. Um,
But also, I think you also have grown into the mindset or in the mindset that you may feel like this is a failure and
mhm,
others may view it like that, but it doesn't define you
absolutely.
or define the rest of your life or
That's
what's
right.
going to occur.
Mhm,
Um, and that's kind of like what I've set out to do. Like I've kind of been my mission is that it doesn't define Xander and I's lives
mhm,
from here on out. Yes, this is something that's happened, something tragic and terrible that happened, but it's almost an opportunity for me to show my son adversity, what it is to be in love with someone and
mhm,
to love your children and to take care of them and grow that relationship um, that I didn't know if I would ever have.
mhm. Yeah,
So,
well said, man. I really appreciate that. So, when you think about the stages of grief, there are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Where would you say you are right now, and where do you feel like you either get stuck or spend the most time?
um, it's not anger.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's probably depression. I think it's easy for me to go to work and do things outside the home.
Mm,
Um, and especially outside the home for others. And to do things for Xander at times is hard. And it shouldn't be, but I think that's just the stage of life I'm at this time trying to navigate my journey. It's not always easy to get up, but it's not something I have to do. It's a choice that we make. You know what I mean? I don't have, we really don't have to do anything. We choose to do things because that's what we either feel like is right or that's what we want to do. And I think that's also something I learned on my journey so far is I downplayed a lot of things as if there were things I have to do.
mm,
And a lot of things I've done in the last 10 years weren't things I had to do. They were doing out of choice. Not good or bad choice, but bad things don't happen to me. Bad things occur, and it's kind of my choice how I'm going to respond to that.
mm. Okay.
And in doing so, I think in that 10 years of some of those things that have occurred with Danny's hospitalization, my son's premature birth, and this, I think, have almost led me to not be prepared for this situation, but to navigate maybe a little better. Now, I don't think I ever will be over it. I don't know if I will ever, I don't know if what life has. I'm trying to be more curious, not anxious about it, um, just in a way to kind of control some of those thoughts. But I think definitely denial.
Mm,
Um, everything that was Danny's that left in that place hasn't moved. Uh, I still will lock the door, turn the light out at night. And that's also in a way I feel like I can stay connected um, with this person. Um, it was a tough Christmas. I actually wrote a letter to Danny and put it in her stocking. And it may be weird, but I treated it as like a date.
well,
I took a shower. I put on a nice outfit. It was just me here. I turned off the TV and I sat here and wrote a letter and put it in a Christmas card I picked out. And we had her mom, we did a Christmas at her mom's and I put it in her stocking. And I just talked about things, the boys, life. But people talk about phases. And, you said being stuck in them. I don't know if you get stuck in one. I think they overlap. I think you can get caught in many of these phases at once. And you have to, at times, really lean into your support system and ask for help. Um, and I think in doing so, it helps you. Like it helps you to feel you are not lonely. You are supported. You are loved. There are people there that are willing to help you. Um, and that's hard as a man to ask for help, to seek that, because at the end of the day, like I said, like it's our job to provide and protect for our kids. Like,
We carry that responsibility.
right. And I don't want someone else to have to carry that responsibility after a day of work because that's my son, that's my responsibility. But I'm lucky to have that support if need be, and when I do need it.
Man, I think you just gave probably the most real example of what it truly looks like to go through the process of grief.
I mean,
You know,
it's something that some days are whatever, and some days are really hard. And I'm thankful and blessed that I do have my son to help me make the choice to get out of bed, to help me make those choices to do things. Because at the end of the day, a lot of my mind is focused on him. Because at the end of the day, I'm 39. I have my mother still. I'm blessed in that. He's 5. He's going to grow up with memories of his mother and the legacy I will continue to bring and share and his family and like that. But he won't be able to hug her at 8. He won't see her at his 5th grade graduation. His last birthday he saw her was 4. And so that's part of the grief that I carry. And that I my son's going to grow up without his mother. And there are going to be days when he really wants her. And I'm trying to do both. I can't do both. So, I don't know.
I would imagine that one of the hardest parts, again, our situations are not the same. So I'm just trying to empathize and put myself in your shoes. I like to think about when your kids are young and they get their first cold or they get their first stomach bug and they have no way of expressing how they feel. All they can do is sit there and feel miserable. You just wish you could take it from them,
Yes.
right? Because we're old enough to understand that if I do this, it might make me feel a little bit better. Or we can at least predict in a day or two it'll feel a little bit better. I would imagine one of the hardest parts for a parent who is going through the process of grief, but also having to shepherd your child through that process is feeling like this is how I would feel. So I'm not assuming it's how you feel. It's not fair for them.
No.
Like I've lived for the most part of my life. I've had my opportunities. I had my childhood.
And that
It's not fair that he doesn't get his mom.
was a lot of it. It still is a lot of it. And some of that is shown in anger, sadness. Um, but yeah, like sometimes I think like what did he do to deserve? And it's nothing that he did or we did. Again, it was choices that led us to where we are. But that is hard. Because I want to do it in a way that when he wants to talk about it, we talk about it. Going back to that responsibility piece, I was one that told my son,
Wow.
I wasn't alone, but I was one that told my son that his mother had passed. And to be honest with you, I don't know what I said, what happened after that. I just remember the tremendous loss feeling and the loss of, and I felt like I let him down.
Wow.
And that his mother wasn't going to be here to see him physically do these things. I know she's there. She is our guardian angel. But I also think that there was a reason that Danny and I met, that it was so long for us to have children in our relationship, that we weren't married. I think maybe God knew something bigger than I did at the time, and that something was going to happen. I was going to need him to carry me as much as he needs me to carry him.
You know, it's kind of crazy you say that, because that really leads perfectly into the next question. And it really reminds me of the last conversation we had. You know, we got together, I can't remember if it was right before or right after Christmas. It was right after. And watched some games together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, went and sat, had a couple drinks and ate some food. And you made a very specific comment about purpose. So my next question, it may be relevant to that, it may not be relevant to that. Let's just see what you feel. How has going through this process shaped your identity and given you purpose?
I think it really gave me a sense of purpose of what it means to be a father and a role model and a teacher to my son. And that I could choose to be angry and show him what anger is, his life. Or even in moments, just in spurts. Like, don't get me wrong, I get angry and frustrated. Yeah. That's human. But I could choose to wake up in this, I'm angry at the world. And I struggled with some of that, I think, for a little bit. But then I kind of had a self-realization that, like, if I do this, this is what he's going to think about the world. And this is going to be what I've imprinted on him. And I don't want that to be, again, what defines Xander. I don't know what his purpose is. I look back at his birth and what he 4 months in NICU and all that just to come home. His purpose has got to be bigger than this defining him.
Absolutely.
And I can't be the one that does that. And I wanted to take those steps, so I didn't do that, because I felt that if I didn't address myself, then that was going to be the next. It was going to be the sense of denial and anger. And anger was going to come out on the people I love and I live with. That was going to be my son.
You know, James, I would bet 99% of people realize that when it's too late.
I think so
damage
too.
is already done. The negative influence on the generation below us or the people we love is already done. You know, especially as men. Especially as men. You know, it's almost like and you said earlier, and I agree with you, it is okay to be angry at sometimes. You know, you're not angry at her for what happened. You're just angry at the reality of things.
Yep.
But sometimes as men, we feel like we have the right to be angry, you know, and we do take it out on those who we love without always recognizing what that's doing to those people. And kids are so impressionable. every day they look to us as their sense of security.
And they look to us how we react to certain
Exactly.
situations.
And if that's how we respond, it'll do two things. A, it'll teach them that that's the way that they'll respond, and then they'll get punished, reprimanded for it, treated poorly. When in reality, that's what they've been taught. Um, but B, it'll hurt them.
Yep.
It'll hurt them when they are seeking out love in whatever shape, way, or form, or affirmation, or acceptance, and they're responded to with anger and wrath.
Or even guidance.
Exactly.
And they learn, well, if I ask this question, they get mad. If I do this, they get mad.
Exactly.
So they learn how to navigate things, or it makes you mad, or it makes this person mad. So then in life, they carry that, and that fear that if I do this, it's going to make a person mad or that person mad. That's tough to feel like you've got to walk on eggshells so you don't upset anyone. Because if you upset them, then X, Y, Z will happen. It's something I've struggled with, not so much in co-work or working relationships, but personal relationships.
Absolutely.
I think I'm learning that it's okay to tell people that I'm not happy or comfortable with this or that. And if you get angry, I'm sorry, but it's also in the way I deliver the message. I can't come in yelling and cursing and screaming that I'm mad and pissed off because whatever didn't go or this didn't happen or whatever. Instead, I have to sit down and have a conversation with my emotions and in check. And I can express anger with my words as well that aren't negative to that other person or belittling or anything like that. And I think that's something I'm trying to learn.
Yeah. And I think that's a process, but it sounds to me like recognizing that's something that you have to learn is a huge first step, right? If you don't recognize it, how can you learn it?
Correct.
How can you correct yourself the next time you have an opportunity?
Correct.
So I definitely want to give you a big hats off for that, man.
Thank you.
Sometimes when we go through things, you never know when somebody else who may be either in your close circle or in your extended circle may be in the same position. You know what I mean? Like, you don't look at anybody who are your friends and wonder, who's going to be the next person to lose a spouse or significant other? Who's going to be the next person to get divorced?
No.
And you don't wish it on anybody either, because the reality is it's not fun. But what kind of advice would you give to somebody who is in, say, day one of the journey? They just got the phone call that you got, or they just had their wife tell them, I want a divorce. They just had that moment where crap hit the fan, whatever it may be, and they are about to go through the cycle of dealing with their life forever being changed.
Well, if it's day one, first thing I'm doing is I was just trying to find friends, people to be around.
So surround yourself.
Surround myself with people I know, people I care for. Another thing I did, most people want to turn to alcohol immediately when something. I did drink, but I drank 6 beers, which some may, that's a lot, but for myself, that's not a lot.
Yeah.
And I did that for a while. I managed how much alcohol and limited that because I didn't want to experience a negative effect of depression caused by alcohol. I didn't want alcohol to lead me down a spiral hole that I didn't want to be down.
I'm proud of you for that.
And I think that's something that took something to learn. Not learn, but one of my friends gave me a piece of advice about that because he experienced one of our good friends, one of his best friends, killed himself. And that was something he passed on to me that first day, was that it's okay to drink. Like, I'm not saying don't drink, but be mindful of what that can cause or where that can lead you.
As far as the negative mental health implications?
Yep. As far as like you drink, and then you go home by yourself, and now you're in a negative mindset, and you're thinking about all these other things. Like, you just don't need to be in that place at that time. And I think the other step I would, like I did, but try to seek some type of therapeutic advice. Because even if you have people that you love and you feel we have a great relationship, but there's some things that you just don't talk about, or it's not safe, or you don't feel safe, or things like that nature. And with me, I got lucky in that I have a great relationship, I feel like, with my therapist, and that I can be vulnerable room that I'm in seeing him.
Absolutely.
And that he's vulnerable when I'm seeing him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen him cry and show emotions through some of my things that I'm sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because he can relate and put himself in those shoes of being a 40-year-old man and having kids and losing that significant other, and the sense of how much that changes your life. And that I think that lean into that, your support, and seek someone to allow you to have that space to grieve. Or like me, I'm grieving in moments, but there I can grieve. It's safe for me to grieve if I can't hold it together for an hour.
That's right.
One of the things I'm working on is a target, and the last target I had is Danny's death. And the first time I wrote it down was in his office, and I got Danny's death written out on the whiteboard, and I lost it for 45 minutes.
Mm.
And we were able, he didn't leave, he didn't just kick me out.
That's right.
Like we were able to regulate our emotions and get back to, but at that moment, that's 7 months out, and that's all I could get before it crushed me.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you're gonna rush. Tomorrow, I hated hearing this. I swear I hated hearing this when people say tomorrow's gonna be a better day, because all I could think about how shitty the day is, or how shitty this moment is, or how much I want to leave this moment. But it truly does get better. It may not feel like it does the second day or the third day, but months. I can't speak on years, but it does get better. Now, is it easier? Sometimes, but it does get better.
Man, I think that's really good advice, and it's encouraging. You know what I mean? Because when you're in the beginning phases, and really in several phases, it just sucks, and you have to have something to look towards. So knowing that it gets better is huge. You know, giving people that practical advice to find a good therapist. I don't think I could say enough about how valuable that is.
I don't think I could either right now in my current journey.
Exactly.
And I was going once a week, but I started on a difficult journey, and we didn't jump in right to grief. Okay. We started on some building myself up, my self-confidence, my self-esteem, things of these nature. The choice was a big thing. Like choice has been one of those words for me that he has really put that I resonate with. The other one, just had it. Curious.
I heard you say that a couple times.
Because when we say anxious, it invokes a different feeling than curious. And I can be anxious about what's going to happen for 10 years from now or how I'm going to do it. Yeah. But right now, I'm doing it already.
That's right.
I'm doing it now.
You're in it. So
what's going to change between now and 10 years other than my physical self and Xander's physical self? It's better to be curious. You don't have to worry about it. You're already doing it. Why be worried about what you're doing now? You're showing you can do it.
That's right.
Now be curious about what your future may hold, but don't worry about what's going to happen 3 years from now.
Yeah, and I think that concept of being curious automatically puts so much more of a positive connotation.
Absolutely. It's a way of reframing that sense of worry that you have when you hang that annotation of anxious on it. But if you reframe it so that I'm anxious about how are we going to do this in 5 years or what's in, or, why don't I just be curious about it? Because I'm doing it already right now.
Kind of reminds me, I had a counseling session maybe like 2 months ago, maybe, what is it, January? Gosh. I think it was November. I'm trying to think of what it was because I went up to see my sister, and I meet with my counselor virtually. So she's in Baltimore. So I literally pulled over at like a Kroger or something parking lot in Charlottesville.
Turn on the hotspot.
Yeah, exactly. But I bet you for the first 10 minutes of the session, I was just complaining. You know what I mean? I was mad at my wife because I didn't feel like she was giving me a fair chance to try to work through some things in order to save our relationship. I was mad at everybody else, mad at the church, mad at the people who I consider my family who were basically ghosted me, for lack of better words. And I was fearful about the future, very fearful. What's this going to mean for me financially? What's this going to mean for me with my kids? And Mark, my counselor, he said, you're doing a lot of reflecting on the past and you can't control any of that. What you've done that you wish you could have done better, important to know, but it's already behind you.
Correct.
And he said, and you're doing a lot of talking about what you're concerned about moving forward. All you can focus on is right now.
Yep.
And that sounds overwhelmingly basic.
It does.
But that was like gold to me.
Just like tomorrow will be a better day. To me, that sounded so basic. Like, shut up. I don't want to freaking hear that. Like, get out of my face.
That's right.
I know tomorrow's going to be a better day, but I don't. How do you know that? What happens tomorrow?
Yeah, it's true. And sometimes it can be hard to believe when, in your situation, I've watched for the last 10 years, you experience challenge after challenge after challenge. I said it would be very difficult to almost believe the opposite, that tomorrow is going to be a better day, and to start thinking, well, what's next?
Yep.
You know what I mean? I watched you lose one, maybe two grandparents. I watched Danny get sick and deal with some brain things. I watched Xander go to the NICU, and now watching you lose Danny, I could see it being very difficult to even believe that tomorrow could be a better day, because all history says something else that sucks is going to happen next, right? But being able to put your mindset in that positive place to where you can't control yesterday, can't control tomorrow, I can only control right now, gives us just enough to make it through the day.
Well, I think, and this may sound weird, I think this process has helped me with that realization. I think you worry about a lot of things, and you worry about work and deadlines and all this other stuff, but at the end of the day, like, the big picture, that doesn't matter. If I got to support my kid by doing whatever, then I can do that. Like, at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is the people around me and my family. Because if I don't go back to Brookville High School, or something tragically happened to me, they have to continue with that life.
True.
That our life doesn't pause because this tragic thing happened.
That's right.
The rest of the world has to go on about business.
Our jobs were there before us; they'll be there after us.
Correct. Right.
And if we die tomorrow, our job will be posted before our obituary.
More than likely.
Our job will be posted by the end of business day. Yep. Obituary is going to take a couple days.
Correct.
So, it's interesting, man. I think this has been a really good conversation. I feel like this is something that we could continue to go deeper on. I think we've really just scratched the surface. So, I would like to go ahead and open up that invitation that maybe we do a part two moving forward. Or maybe we take one specific aspect of something we discussed today and we kind of spin off into another episode, man. So it's been great.
Thank you, man.
Real good.
Thanks for our first one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just appreciate your willingness to be open, because this is not an easy topic. And it's really easy for us to hold our cards close. And again, there's times where that's necessary, but I think part of our healing journey is maybe not open it up to the whole world, even though we may do that if we decide to post this, but being able to connect with people that you trust.
Yep.
So,
well, I'm hoping that today, like with me sharing my story and even seeing some of that rawness and emotion and things, that people do see that it's okay.
That's right.
People are experiencing things just like you. And even though they're bad or suck, that we can get through them.
That's right. I agree, man. Well said. Well said. Well, I appreciate it, man.
No problem.